Hey guys, this is AC Lock here, and this is just for the heck of it right now. Just a place that we go here just to bring you guys some age-old wisdom and business acumen to help you do better out there every day as entrepreneurs. And today I want to talk to you guys about closing ratios and the myth of using your feelings to run your business. Now, back in the old days before we had GPS, and ships would go back and forth across the ocean, you had to have a navigator on a ship, and he navigated primarily by the stars. And so they would take measurements from time to time in the position of the boat to the stars on the horizon to be able to tell whether or not they were headed in the right direction or where they currently were on their voyage. Well, then, of course, GPS was invented, and we have satellites now, and the satellites sit there and keep track of your position through your global positioning system on your boat or in your car. And it tells you exactly where you're at, tells you what time you're going to get to your destination, and how you're doing along the process. Well, your business is very, very similar. And I'm going to give you an example here of where you really need to build in some GPS type principles into your business. And that's on your closing ratios. Now, remember, a long time ago, I had conversations with guys like Pat Clark about this. I had a conversation with one of our in-network companies, Jesse Gertz, with Pioneer Soft Wash about this within the last 24 hours. And it made me think it's time to probably do a just for the heck of it right now on this. So, closing ratios. When you go out there and you get leads into your company, you send out salespeople or yourself to go out and close those leads. It's very easy if you go by feeling, if you go by, it's like walking through the woods without a GPS or without a map or without a compass. If you just go by feeling or by memory, you can get lost really, really fast. Really fast. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you're tracking your closing ratios by, well, I'm going by feeling, I'm going by how my last week went, I'm going by how my last 2 or 3 appointments went, you can go into a downward spiral really quick if you have 2 or 3 refusals in a row thinking that you're not doing a good job. How do you keep that from happening? How do you keep your emotions and your feelings from getting control of your business and really getting you majorly off course? Well, the way you do this is by keeping count, tracking and measuring, putting together reports, and putting scoreboards up on the wall. And I remember when I had to do this with my cleaning businesses, I had to make sure to put scoreboards up on the wall, especially when you have a sales team. Because I'll tell you one thing about salespeople, they have more excuses than they have orifices on their body. And it's always your fault, the reason why they're not closing, not their own fault. Most salespeople are D's on the personality styles, and D's don't really like to admit when they're wrong at all. So they'll always come up with excuses why it's your fault they're not selling well. It'll be, well, you haven't given me a new shirt in 3 months, and hey, you're not doing enough stuff to generate company leads for me, and the advertising isn't good, and the $99 guys hit my territory, and we're hitting market saturation. It's always some other reason other than, hey boss, I'm just having an off week. I just need to pull up my bootstraps, and I need to make something happen. You're never going to hear that out of a salesperson. They're always going to give you an excuse. So what you have to do to combat that, even if you're doing the selling yourself, is you really need to make sure that you're tracking your efforts. And one of the easiest way to track your efforts is just to turn around and take all of the leads that you've gotten over a week's period of time. For sure, you should do this monthly, but take all the leads you got in a week. And then take an at your desk or at a table, go ahead and separate those leads. Put in one pile the leads you closed this week. Now I call this a 1-to-1 ratio. What do you mean by 1-to-1 ratio, AC? Well, this is what I mean. Leads that came in that week that you actually closed that same week. They came in and they closed all in the same week, a 1-to-1 ratio. So you're going to put those in one pile. Then you're going to take and put all the leads that you didn't close in another pile. And what you'll find is the national averages and where everybody is at is about 50% of all the leads you go out on in that 1-to-1 ratio in the same week, you'll close that same week. If you're not, then there's issues, and we need to talk about those issues. There's a thing called deodorant. Hint, hint, no. But the bottom line is there could be issues. So then you have this pile of leads you didn't close, and you have to look at those very, very carefully. In those leads you didn't close, possibly you're still going to close 1 or 2 of those leads next week or the week after with good follow-up, careful consideration. You may have presented your product to the husband or wife, and their husband or wife wasn't there, their significant other, and they just don't make decisions on their own. They don't go cowboy in their relationship. They make sure that they pull in their spouse and make the decision together. And it may just be that it's going to take a few days, or if not a week, for them to get together and make that decision together. So in the ensuing week, not the same week, the 1-to-1 ratio, but the next week or the week after, you still may close 1 or 2 of those. And you'll find that that's very, very typical. So of the 10 leads now, you move those 2 leads that you closed in the ensuing weeks over to the pile of leads you close. That means you're going to have a 60 to 70% closing ratio. 60 to 70%, which is very, very good. You should not exceed 60 to 70%. Some of you guys have a 90% closing ratio, and I'm telling you the reason why that is you're too cheap. You're too cheap. You need to raise your prices. You need to raise your prices till you get down to a 60 to 70% closing ratio. All right, so now let's take those last 3, maybe 4 jobs that you didn't close. And let's wait till the end of the month and let's evaluate the whole month's worth of leads. So if you look at the whole month's worth of leads, you're going to slide off all the ones you closed, 60 to 70%, and you're going to have the ones you didn't close, 30 to 40%. Let's go ahead and call it 4 jobs out of 10 you don't close. Let's be pessimistic. Of those 4 jobs out of 10, where did they go? Well, what you're going to find out, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me on this recording, what you're going to find out is 1 out of every 10 job, they couldn't afford it, whether you were the $99 guy or the $1,999 guy, they could not afford to have anything done at all. Okay? At all. So they were doing reconnaissance, they were checking into pricing, they were kicking the tires and everything else, and they just didn't do anything. You drive by their house and it's still dirty. By the way, are you driving by the houses that you think that you lost? Usually they're still dirty, which means you didn't lose them yet. All right, that aside, now we've got 3 jobs. Okay? 1 of those 3 didn't do anything. 3 of the 3 might have done something. So of those 3 that remain, probably one of those people went to Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware, got a pump-up sprayer, got a pressure washer. There's a reason why Home Depot, Lowe's, and Ace Hardware and all those places sell or rent pressure washers. Because there's a lot of people that do that either buy or rent the pressure washers. So those are going to be the people that called you, got a price, went, man, for that I could buy a pressure washer or do it myself. I'm like, dude, God bless you. I'd rather go fishing on a Saturday than pressure wash my house. But they're economically in that situation, and they're probably at a personality style of like a C, where they're very numbers conscious. They don't really value their time over the money. And they're going to go out and buy a power washer, and they're going to do it themselves. And they're going to have this perceived joy of, look at me, I accomplished a lot, and I didn't pay money to that evil power washing company. But the bottom line is after they've done it a few times, that pressure washer starts to get dust on it, and they call you anyhow. But anyhow, so of those 4, you had 1 that didn't do anything, 1 that decided to do it themselves. Which means you only have 2 leads out of 10, 20% of your leads that you didn't close that might have been done by a competitor. So let's look at that. Okay, one of those two for sure got done by a competitor. I can tell you the national average is you only lose 10% of your business to competitors. So what happens then to that one left out of 10 that could afford it, didn't do it themselves, didn't have a competitor do it? Well, they may have had a brother-in-law or somebody in need or some sort of charity situation that they just, they just decided to help somebody down on their luck, or maybe a competitor they felt bad for, and they had it done that way. So that's not a true competitor. That's like charity work. That's not somebody that's an apples to apples competitor with you. That's a charity situation. You had somebody that had a soft heart or something like that. And I've been in this business almost 30 years now, and every time we sit down and do this exercise, closed jobs, unclosed jobs, take the unclosed jobs, ones we do follow up on, move them over to closed, take the 3 to 4 we didn't close, drive by the houses, call the customers, knock on their door during the dinner hour when you know they're going to be home, just to find out what happened. And what you're going to find is you're not losing as many jobs to competitors as it feels like. That through tracking and measuring and actually following up and counting all of your leads, running a report, posting it on the wall for your whole team to see, you're going to realize very, very quickly, that you're not losing jobs to competitors like you thought. So that leaves you with one final thought. If 6 to 7 out of 10 people were going to go with you anyway, and the conversation I had with Pat Clark many years ago was, AC, I'm at 60% closing ratio. I want to get to 80. I want to drop my prices to win more business. That's a lie. It's one of the biggest lies in history. Do not do that. Because the fact of the matter is you don't know which one of those jobs you had to drop your prices to win that one more job, to get to that 70 or 80% closing ratio. So you end up dropping all your prices all the way across the board, and then you end up doing 7 jobs at a lesser profit instead of 5 or 6 jobs at a higher profit. Wouldn't you rather do less work for more money than more work for less money? Right, that's like a duh. So that's the bottom line, is if you actually track and measure, and you do this exercise that I just taught you right now, it'll give you the confidence, number one, to know that you're really not losing much work at all, if any, really, to competitors. And the fact of the matter is you just need to raise your prices. All right, this is AC.